Hello, everyone. Welcome to Grounded Roots Healing. I'm Jason, and I'm a spiritual teacher. A new one. It's just a new title, I guess, I've been giving to myself here recently. But, you know, as we know, titles don't really matter, including our names. I guess I am that I am. So today I'm going to do a video about a lighter topic, depression. Now, I know it's not funny to laugh about depression, but uh, I've had it my entire life. So, well, not entire life. About from the age of 7 onward, I've had what would be clinical depression. So, a few days ago, I did a video entitled something like a pat on the back for things that I've accomplished. I've had this spiritual awakening over the last 8 months, and it's been a heroic path. And I gave myself a bit of a pat on the back, and I congratulated for what I've accomplished, but I left out one glaring thing that I've been able to, if not completely conquer, at least make a lot of progress with. So I now feel that I understand what depression is and how we can solve this. Now, I know that's a bold claim, and this is what I feel to be true. I at least in my case, I know this is how it is, but I have a strong feeling that I understand what causes this. So I mean, that's pretty epic. Probably should be written into a book, and I may do that down the road. But so I left out this glaring accomplishment, and why. So I did a video on all the things that I've been able to accomplish, like I said, over the last 8 months. Quit using alcohol, all of this stuff. And you can go back and watch the video. But why did I leave out one of the biggest one, if not the biggest, probably the biggest? Because I wasn't quite there yet. So over the last 3 days, I've come to a lot of conclusions. I've figured out a lot of things about depression and what it is. And I've been able to make some serious progress with myself in this field, in this regard. So it's going to take me a minute. This might be a longer video. I'm trying to make sure I don't miss anything. But why did that happen? So people who have been going down this path for a while, you start to have this things called psychic amnesia. So what it is the universe won't let you remember very important things that they just seem to slip your mind. And they're left out because you still have something to learn. So I had that happen to me. The universe didn't let me remember that I've cured my depression because I hadn't quite done it yet, and I needed to formulate some more ideas. So I left it out. And then I decided I was going to write up, after I'd done this, the day after, I decided I was going to write up I do little scripts. They're not really scripts, but they're outlines of my thoughts on the subject. And I did it, and it wasn't that good, and it didn't make me feel good about having solved it, because I hadn't. So the last few days I've gotten downloads, information, and a deeper understanding of what's going on. Now, some of that came from Andreas Rydell. He's a new YouTuber. He's very good. He's very good at explaining the ego and in our relation to us. And I really like his channel. I've been watching it quite a bit, and the information is great. And some of the stuff that he said resonated with me deeply, and it led me to some conclusions myself. So, before, let me see, I better outline what my depression looked like. So I had clinical depression for 40 years. So I'm 47. And at the age of 7, this is when it started. And it started, I remember the particular few incidents that actually led to it. So I had one incident, not one, I had several incidents where I witnessed SA. I won't go into detail at all about those. And trigger warning, if you have depression and you're not ready to face it, you may not want to watch this video. So I had exposure to SA, and it traumatized me, and it made me not feel safe for the rest of my life. So now I've since dealt with most of this, if not all of this, and let that part of it go. But what I didn't deal with was the consequences to the inner child. So I had another incident, which I will describe in a little more detail because it's not so trigger inducing, I guess. And it will give us a good example of why. So I had an interaction when I was a kid. I was 7, like I said. I think it would have been 6 or 7. It was a series of events, and it always will be with all of us here. It's like usually you don't have a break like this from one instance, but this particular instance I still recall in vivid detail. So we had gotten new neighbors. I lived in a poor town, and we had gotten new neighbors, and they were not wealthy or well off, and they were, how do I describe that? They were a rough bunch of people. So they had a little baby in a stroller and several other boys, and another boy was probably 12 years old. And something happened to the little baby. I don't remember the details of that, but apparently it got hit by a rock or something. And they were out, these two older boys and the baby pushing the stroller, and for some reason I got the blame for having thrown a rock or something, which I knew it wasn't me. So I tried to plead my case, and that didn't go well. So they put a pretty good beating on me at 7, and you know, I knew it wasn't my fault. I hadn't done anything wrong. I was pleading with them. I couldn't understand why anyone would do this to somebody, you know, because I didn't do anything. And so I was very upset about this situation, and they had taken my shoes off and beaten me with my own sneakers. Now, I was probably only 100 yards from my home, so I picked up my sneakers after they were finished dealing with me, and I walked back to my house, and with my sneakers in hand. So when I got to the house, I went to my mother, and she was out on the front porch, and I still remember her saying, "What's wrong with you? Why didn't you put your sneakers on? You're embarrassing me." So what happened there? Why did that memory stick? It doesn't sound like the biggest, worst thing to ever happen to anyone in the world. And it wasn't, but it was traumatizing for me. I think it was the final straw. This is where I let go of my inner child. This is where the ego took over. So before I can talk about that, I need to explain what the inner well, yeah, what is your inner child? We hear a lot about this. You know, it's a very common thing for everyone to talk about healing your inner child. And no one really talks about what the heck it is. Like, what is it? So in my opinion, it's the you before the ego takes over. It's the conscious you. It's your true self. It's the you before this world gets a hold of you and makes you unsafe. So when you're a young kid, like before this happened to me, I was a very outgoing child. I was funny. The adults all wanted to have me around. There's a million stories about when I was that age, because I was extremely gregarious and quite a funny, unabashed kid. And I did a lot of funny things, and it's probably a little bit too smart for my own good, and I got in a lot of trouble too. But this is why little kids have no shame. They're free. They don't have the ego. They don't have the ego telling them they can't do this, they can't do that. Now, when this split happens, that's it. There's no going back until you get older. You know, this is your consciousness expressing itself in an unfiltered form in your everyday life. It's what we want to be. That is your inner child. The inner child stops being you when the ego takes over. Now, why? It's not that the ego is evil. What is the ego? So the ego is the part of your brain that I often call the monkey mind, that evolved to protect us and keep us alive on this planet. It's the part of the human Homo sapiens sapien that was our way to survive in nature, where everything wanted to eat us. You know, before our consciousness, so body, mind, and spirit, spirit being consciousness, body being the body, and mind being the monkey mind. Before consciousness invaded or started running the show down here, which it isn't doing for most people, it was just the monkey mind and the body, i.e. unconscious animals. And it kept us alive. But it's not necessary anymore. We're not in the jungle anymore. We don't need it running the show. It can take a back seat. So, you know, it's the part of the psyche that evolved on the planet. I don't know how else to express it. So I often use the analogy that R.J. Spina uses about the body, this vessel that is Jason, is analogous to a vehicle, an actual car. And for most people, the monkey mind is driving the car, and the conscious mind is in the passenger seat, and it tries to take control every once in a while. But for the most part, everyone's being run by their monkey mind. Now, the objective to awakening, as I've said, is to put the awakened soul in the driver's seat and to put the monkey mind in the back seat and not let it drive. Now, we don't hate the monkey. We need him. It kept us alive this long, and what it did, when it took over control, in that moment where my mother didn't give me the support or didn't show me what I expected, it showed me that I wasn't safe for me to be myself anymore. It was no longer safe to be the conscious Jason. And the monkey mind, in its protective nature, took over. And there's where the ego started. And, you know, it's just trying to protect us and keep us safe. But we don't need it. We don't need it anymore. It needs to go in the back seat. We need to be driving this. And that is what awakening is. So, if anyone who watches Jim Carrey knows that he's had a profound change in his life, and he's not the same person that he was a long time ago when he was doing Ace Ventura, but he's a wonderful human being. Now, he follows a spiritual teacher. I can't remember his name right now offhand, but he often quotes this, and he says that depression is just the body saying it needs deep rest. Not depression, deep rest. It needs a break from the ego. It needs a break from that persona, from pretending to be someone it's not, to keep yourself safe. And I agree with him totally. Where I interject is that it happens at that point. Now that's powerful. Now we know that what we want is that inner child back. There's nothing wrong with it. You don't have to heal your inner child. What you have to do is heal all the trauma that happened after that your body is having these unconscious reactions to, and then let the inner child out and see what happens. This is enlightenment. I mean, a lot of stuff is occurring to me as I'm talking about it right now. This is very powerful. This is going to be important. I need to figure out how to teach this. So, you know, throw off that mask, that persona. That's what persona means. It means to put a mask on. It's from, I believe, Roman theater or Greek theater. I didn't even talk about like my history of depression at all. I like I said, this happened when I was 7 years old, and since then, I have had depression. So for 40 years, and it was I used alcohol to deal with it. Not deal with it. I used exercise. I used to run a lot until I injured myself and I couldn't do that anymore. Then it went to alcohol. And then in my 20s, I had to start on antidepressants. I was on those for 15 years. And then until they didn't work anymore, because those things are not intended to be on for long periods of time. And I switched to different cocktails and different varieties, and I tried them all, and then eventually they weren't working anymore, so I just had to deal with it back with alcohol and marijuana and then other things. So what am I going with here? Like, I know what depression is. I know what it is. I've had I don't know if I should even describe it or if I've already gone too far on the YouTube algorithm here, but passive S-word ideation, and my entire life, which is essentially not wanting to wake up, just wanting to go to bed and not wake up. So I've had that so many times. It's uncountable. And other versions of this where it was a little less passive. So I've had brushes where this was, and this has caused trauma in my wife's life, as well as probably anyone else who knows me and cares about me. So I know what it is. I've been there, and for anyone who's suffering with this, there's a way out of this. I don't have it anymore. You know, even when I'm sad, there's a background of happiness and joy in there. You know, my entire life I was even when I was happy, there was a tinge of sadness in the background. Now, even when I'm sad, there's a tinge of happiness. So I'm not saying that I won't have another setback, or that I won't have moments where I'm feeling in something similar to depression, but I don't have any of the other stuff anymore. I don't take medication. I don't have to do any of this because I've done all the work. I've done all the work to heal the trauma, to do the shadow work, to raise my frequency by healing my body, by getting all these chemicals. And I mean, I have I don't know how many videos I have now, maybe 30, and they're all designed to help you raise your frequency. Now, if you try these things, you might be surprised. It's not something you want to do all at once, but little baby steps and steps in the right direction. You can heal this. It is possible. I'm living proof. You know, I'm getting a little bit emotional here because I know that was with me for so long. This demon sitting on my shoulder has been with me since that happened. And as I let that inner child out again, I can feel the weight lifting. I can feel the grip that it had on me letting go. And I'm excited. You know, there's always a little bit of trepidation, because anyone who knows, who's been through this, is always afraid of the next time. But I know it's not coming. Not like that. So there you go. I've been trying to make this video for a couple of days, and you know, I've been struggling because I think I still needed to formulate a few ideas, but there they are. And I need to turn this into some sort of method, some sort of way to describe it that's, well, maybe it's just the videos. Maybe if you find this and you are interested in this, maybe you should start looking back at the videos that I've already done and try some of that stuff, because it is possible to get some relief from this. And you know, I know how important that is. And what I didn't say is, it's not just depression. That's another thing before I sign off here. Everybody, like, that was my way of dealing with it. That was the, when I had the split, the ego and the conscious mind split at 7 years old from this trauma and these various things I've described, I chose depression, or my higher self did. And that's what it caused, or that's how it was expressed in me. The no longer being able to be myself was expressed as depression. Everybody expresses it differently. So I know people who just shut up, or they won't talk. And everybody thinks they're just shy, but it's because of that split. They didn't feel safe to speak anymore, so they stopped speaking. They stopped speaking their truth. And that is what it looks like in some other people I know. And I'm sure there's a million other things. We all do different things based on our situation and, you know, what our particular coping skill is to deal with this. Mine was depression. What's yours? They can all be fixed. You just have to go through these steps. It's incredibly powerful. And I hope somebody in this group of, I think 54 YouTube subscribers now, finds this and tries it. If I can get through to one person and get you some relief from this, this will all have been worth it. I've been at this for over a month now, and I'm not going to stop. This information is too important. And like I said, one person finds this. One. It's been worth every minute. All this work. Including quitting my job to do this. So, there we are. As I always say, I hope this video finds you well. I love you all. And we'll see you tomorrow.